Okay, so today we'll be starting off with interfaces and I will be telling you how interfaces are used in Selenium and what are the advantages of interfaces. Yesterday we had seen uh, various driver classes like Firefox iDriver. Alright, so let me create a new Java project, day 3, and in day 3 I will add all external jars of Selenium first of all. Right. Now let us look at interfaces. Yesterday in basics of Selenium drivers, I told you that you have got all the drivers like Firefox driver, Chrome driver, iDriver and all the types of drivers are there inside this class, right? And you need to see you need to create the object of every driver. So the problem which I discussed was that what if I have to write a script which works on all the drivers, all the browsers basically. For example, I'll create a new class over here known as dynamic scripts. Alright, and inside it I will have the main function as well, and inside dynamic scripts I have kept the main function, right? And I will create the object of Firefox driver. Then what if I want to run it on Firefox as well as Chrome as well as I just cannot create objects of every particular driver class. For example, forget about this. I will create a variable known as string browser equals to, I call it Mozilla. So whatever script I am writing after this should execute on Mozilla. If I just change this browser name to Chrome over here, the script should not change. The script should execute on that particular browser. Right. Later on, we will be reading this browser parameter from an external file like a properties file or a XLS file. Right. Okay. So you can keep a condition over here that if browser is equal to Mozilla, then you can create object of Firefox driver. Maybe you can solve this problem like this. Let us see. You can take it to some website, HTTP, uh, any website, say yahoo.com, right? And then you can get the title of the page. Driver.getTitle will give you the title of the web page. Okay. Similarly, you can put an else condition over here. Else if the browser is equal to Chrome, then you initialize your Chrome driver. Fine, and you take the Chrome driver to http yahoo.com. Okay, and get the are you guys able to hear me? There was some network glitch. You can print the title over here. It says Chrome driver.get title. Right. But does this make sense that for every browser I am keeping an else statement and writing the complete code for that browser under this? Okay. For example, else if the browser is IE, right? Then you will have to create the object of Internet Explorer driver. Right. I.get and I.get title. This doesn't make sense because if I have to click on a link in Firefox, then I'll have to write the code to click on the link on Firefox over here. Then if I have to click on a link on I'll have to write the code over here to click on the link in IE, and if I have to click on a link in, sorry, Chrome, and for I'll have to write it over here. So it really doesn't make sense that for every browser, I am writing a different set of code. Still our problem is not resolved. So this problem is resolved with the help of the concept of interfaces in Java. Okay, now what is an interface? I'm going back to Java over here. Okay, what basically is an interface? Interface is something which gives you an idea about the system, that what the system is all about, what system is going to do. For example, when you go to a website, if you go to my website, for example, if you go to hold on, qtpselenium.com, right? Then then the welcome page of this website is like an interface for you. It will tell you that fine, we offer these trainings, but it will not tell you that how good the trainings are, how they are conducted and all. Okay, right. So it gives you general information that fine, we give QTP trainings and training. So this is an interface for you, right? If you have to say order food in restaurant, you go to restaurant, you order food. The menu card is the a la carte menu is the card is like an interface to you which tells you that what the restaurant is offering. Okay, based on that you order food, and then you really don't know while ordering from the a la carte menu how it will be, right? How it will be prepared, but that interface tells you that basically what the restaurant is offering. So similarly we have got interfaces in Selenium, right? We have got interfaces in Java, right? Interfaces, they tell you what system is all about. Fine, for example, I'll make an interface over here, new, not a class but an interface, and I can call that interface as, say, school. Okay, right. Now in interface you just have function declarations. You don't have the body of the functions, you just declare them. For example, public void uh, sorry, start session, public void lunch break, public void holiday time. So these are simple three functions which are there in every school. Okay, right. And they don't have the method bodies in the interface. The interface just declares them. A layman, when he reads the interface, he will come to know that fine, these are the functions or these are the offerings by a school. Okay, fine. Now, how will you make these functions be implemented? Right. For example, I'll just create a new class out here, and I will call that class as say uh, state school, right? So what happens is that this is a school class. In Java, what we do is that we write like this: public class state school implement school interface. So a class has to implement an interface. If a class is implementing an interface, then it is mandatory for the class to implement all the functions in the interface. That is why I'm getting an error over here, because it is mandatory for this class to implement all the functions in the school interface. If you move the mouse over the error, you will get the quick fix, that is add unimplemented methods. If I select this, then all the three functions, start session, lunch break, and holiday time, will come up in this particular class. Even if I remove one of the functions, I will start getting an error. It becomes mandatory for a class to implement all the functions in the interface. Okay, if you don't do that, you get error. This @ override is an annotation. This is known as an annotation. This is there just to tell the user that this function is actually coming from the school interface. Okay, it is not mandatory to write this annotation. You can remove it as well. Okay, but this is just like a marker which will tell a person looking at the code for the first time that fine, this function is coming from the interface. Okay, fine. So over here in the start session function, I can print state school starting. Over here, I can write state lunch break. Okay, over here, I can type state school. Okay, hold on, the spelling mistake. Holiday. Start giving you an error over here. You'll have to correct it over here. State school holiday. Right. You can write any code inside these functions. Completely up to you. Okay, fine. Now, out here, if I create another class, right, and I will call it as, say, private. Okay, right, and it will also implement the interface. Okay, so this private school is also implementing the interface school, so it will have to implement all the functions inside the school interface. Okay, right. So how do we do that? So you will have to implement all the three functions out here. Okay, right. And in start over here you can write private school. So the implementations of the functions can be different for both the school classes. Okay. The implementation of the functions, they can be different for both the school classes. You can have private school starting, private school lunch break, private school holiday. You can write over here. The implementations can be as per their needs. So what I did basically was, in a help of a diagram I'll show you, I made an interface. I made an interface known as school. And there were two classes implementing them, state school and private school. Whatever functions were there in the interface, okay, all the functions were there in whatever functions were there in the school interface, the same functions were there in state school, the same functions were there in private school. And both the classes were implementing the school interface. Now, what is the use of this thing? I could have decided not to make any interface. I could have directly made these two classes. Okay, the advantage is that if a new school comes up tomorrow, okay, tomorrow, if we have any new school or any number of new schools, right, then all the schools will be implementing this interface. Okay, all the schools will implement the school interface and they will have the same set of functions which were there in the school interface. So this gives a kind of structure to the application. Just by looking at the school interface, a layman can come to know that fine, these many functions are there inside this interface. So in the implementing classes, the same functions will be there. It gives a kind of structure to the application. Okay. So whatever functions are there in the interface, the same set of functions will be there in the implementing classes. Right. For example, if I create a new class over here known as simple class known as say test.java, and inside this class I will create objects. I will create objects of say private school. Right. I can call the functions private school dot start session, then private school dot uh, lunch break, and private school dot holiday time. And I can also create the object of state school, right? And I can write state school dot start session, state school dot lunch break, state school dot holiday time, right? Okay. And when you run this code, you will see that it prints the respective function. The function names are same in both the classes. The names are same, but the implementations is different. They are different. Okay. The function names are same, but the implementation of these functions, they are different. All right, fine. Anybody with any questions? You can use the chat option or you can unmute yourself to ask a question. Okay. Now, if I talk about Selenium, if I open the official website of Selenium, which is seleniumhq.org, right? If I go to the download section, under here you will see the Java doc option, the official documentation of Selenium. Okay. And over here, these are all the classes which are there in the Selenium API. Okay, right. Out here, whatever is there in italics, there is actually some issue with my network today. I'm sorry. That's the problem. Maybe I might break for some time, but I think it's okay now. Right. Whatever is there in italics, whatever is written in italics is basically an interface. Okay. Whatever, for example, out here, hold on. Certain mouse. Mouse is an interface, and all the other classes like event firing mouse, remote mouse, these are the implementing classes of the mouse interface. These classes implement the mouse interface. The mouse interface has got basic operations which you can fire on mouse like click, context click, double click, mouse down up. Right. So these are the two implementing classes. can use them to perform mouse gestures. Alright, this is how it works. You have to read the documentation. Whatever is written in italics is a interface. Now if you scroll down, hold on, you will see Webdriver written over here in italics. Webdriver, everybody must have heard about the word Webdriver. Webdriver is nothing but an interface. It's the starting point of the architecture of Selenium. Okay, interface Webdriver. And these are the implementing classes of the interface. Okay, Chrome driver, Edge driver, event firing web driver, Firefox driver. These are the implementing classes. And this is the interface web driver. Okay, fine. Now these driver classes out here, right? If you see, say, for example, Firefox driver. Firefox driver will have Firefox driver will have all the set of functions which are there in the Chrome driver, in iDriver, in Edge driver, Safari driver, whatever functions are there in the implementing classes, the same set of all the functions will be same as declared in the WebDriver interface. For example, in WebDriver interface, you have got functions like close, find elements, get. So these are all the functions which will help you interact with the browser. Okay, like get title, navigate, quit, right, find element, close. So these are all, functions related to interaction with the browser. Okay, so same set of functions will be there in every driver class. Every driver class will have same set of functions. Alright, that is why if you observe carefully the code which I had written dynamic scripts, all the driver classes they are implementing the WebDriver interface. Okay, so what will happen is that they will have same set of functions. I had created object of Firefox driver. Get function Firefox driver was taking you to yahoo.com. Similarly in Chrome driver also the get function was taking you to yahoo.com, and similarly in I also get was taking you to Yahoo. So function names are same in all the classes. Just like you have the same function names in private school and state school over here. Okay, so the name of the functions in all the driver classes will be same. The implementations will be as per the corresponding browser, but the names would be the same. Did you understand this point? If you have any questions, you can ask me. You can ask me if you have any questions. Alright. But still it doesn't solve our problem of dynamic scripts. The function names are same, fine. Get title will get you the title of the browser and all, but still how do I make this script dynamic? How do I make the script in this way that, no matter which browser I write over here, the script should execute in all the browsers. I don't want to write a separate piece of code for every driver class. Okay, now the solution to this also comes from interface. Okay, so the first thing which we learned from interface is that all implementing classes will have same function name. Okay, right. Now I'll create a new class and Or let me take up this one only. I will comment this code, or let this code be as it is. Now listen to this carefully. Another use of interface. Okay, till now we have created the object like this. The name of the class, the reference equals to new class name. Now I am going to create the object like s equals to new private. This is different than this or this. Out here, I am taking the interface reference equals to new class which is implementing the interface. This is the reference of the interface equals to new class which is implementing the interface. Now, how is this different than this? Okay, how is this line different than this line? Okay, I'll tell you. For example, in private school, if we have a function known as public void extra classes. So this is a function which is proprietary of this class. This is not coming out from the interface. Okay, this is not coming out from the interface. Right. So how will this impact the scenario? I'm going to talk about it. Over here, you can call this function private school dot extra classes. You can call it. Out here, when you create the object of private school like this, you make the school interface reference point towards it. You can call the function school dot start session, school dot lunch break, school dot holiday time. All the functions of the private school will be called. Okay, I'll just mark a demarcating line over here, and when I will run this program, you will see that it will print the private school starting, lunch break, holiday, everything. But I cannot call the function extra classes. I will get an error. Okay, if you are creating the object like this with the help of the school interface and pointing the reference to the object of the class implementing the interface, then you cannot call the proprietary functions which are there in the class with the help of school interface. This way you can only call the functions which are there in the class coming from the interface. All these three functions are coming from the interface. This way you cannot call the proprietary functions. You cannot do this. If you create the object like this, you can call all the functions. So what is the difference? Why do we use this then? Okay, right. I can also write over here school S1 equals to new state school. Okay. So what will happen is with S1 I can call all the functions in state school which are coming up from the school interface. I can call say S1 dot say start session for example, and when I run this it will print state school starting. Okay, right, I'll put a marketing boundary, hold on. And maybe if I want I can make S1 point towards new private school after this, because S1 is the reference of interface school. The reference can point towards the class implementing the interface. So over here S1 was pointing towards state school, and over here I made it point towards private school, the same interface reference. then I can write s1 dot start school start session again. So I'm writing these two lines as same, but they will give you a different output. Over here state school starting and over here private school starting, because S1 over here was pointing towards private school. So S1 dot start session will print private, and S1 over here was pointing towards state school, so it will print state school over here. It is similar to, like, for example, if I write int I equals to 100, on the next line maybe I can make I equals to 200. It's something like this. S1 was pointing towards state school, and based on my choice I can make it point towards any school. Right, maybe I can write school S2 equals to null. That means I have network issues today. So out here S2 is null, that is S2 is not pointing towards any object. Null means nothing. Based on my choice, maybe I can make S2 point towards new state school, or based on my choice, I can make S2 point towards new private school. Okay, it's my choice out here. So I can write S2 dot say lunch break over here and S2 dot lunch break over here. So when you write lunch break over here, it will call the function of state school, and lunch break over here will call the function of private school. So when I run this, right? Okay, because if you create the object like this, then the reference is of the interface and the object is of the class. And you can access the functions in this class which are coming up from the interface. The advantage is that this reference can be can be made dynamically to point towards any object which is, or any class which is implementing the interface. This interface can be implemented by many classes. So this reference can point to any of those classes, and that's what I'm doing over here. In Selenium, if you look at the documentation, look, first of all, you don't need to go to this website, Selenium website, to actually look at the documentation. You can import the documentation inside Eclipse as well. Okay, I will tell you how. You can go to this java.doc link, copy the URL, okay, and right click on day 3, go to the properties. Under Java build path, you will see the main, this Java build path, you will see the main Selenium library. Okay, this is the main Selenium library. You expand it and you will see java.doc location out here. You edit this and paste the URL. Remove index.html from the end. Please remove index.html. Click on validate. It will say location is likely valid. That is fine. Okay, okay, apply and close. Now the Java docs will be imported inside Eclipse. For example, in dynamicscripts.java, if I move the mouse over Firefox driver class, if I am moving the mouse, you will see the description about Firefox driver class. If I write Firefox driver dot, I will get lot of functions. If I click on each and every function, Java docs will tell you what this function does. So I have imported Java docs inside Eclipse. If I click on any of these links, then Java docs will open inside Eclipse. Okay, this actually gives us a lot of advantage. You can switch over to the frames view and you see you will have Java docs over here. Okay, now WebDriver, as I told you, is an interface. Okay, WebDriver is the interface and all the driver classes, they implement the WebDriver interface. So they will have the same set of functions coming from WebDriver interface. So till now, we have been creating the objects like this. That is Firefox driver fd equals to new Firefox driver and Chrome driver. Right, we have been implementing the function. We have been creating the objects like this. All the driver classes, they are implementing the WebDriver interface. I can also write like this, WebDriver over here as well as say WebDriver over here, because all the driver classes, they are implementing this interface. It is similar to this. Private school was implementing the school interface, so I created the object like this. Or maybe what I can do is that I can write a WebDriver driver equals to null. Based on my choice, I can make driver point towards new Firefox driver, or maybe based on my choice, I can make it point towards new Chrome driver. It is completely up to me. Okay, if I fire any function over here, that function will be fired on Firefox because driver was pointing towards Firefox. If I fire some function out here, that function will be fired on Chrome. The function names will remain the same. Okay, so same thing will happen in our dynamic scripts.java file. Okay, over here we will declare our WebDriver interface. Reference. You don't need all these things actually. And in case, hold on, in case the browser is Mozilla, then we will make driver point towards new Firefox driver. In case it is Chrome, then driver will point towards new Chrome driver. In case it is I, then driver will point towards new Internet Explorer driver. Because all the driver classes are implementing the WebDriver interface. You will initialize it, then you can fire the functions. The function names are same in all the driver classes. Okay, you can write driver.get http yahoo.com and print the title of the page, that is driver.get title. Okay, right. So when you run this code, you will automatically see that Mozilla will open because browser name is Mozilla. Okay, so Mozilla will open. It will go to yahoo.com. I think my net speed is slow today. Yes, it is. But you guys like, hold on. I think my net speed is, yes, I think my net speed is slow. Yahoo was not opening. If I run it on Chrome, I just need to change the browser name over there and it will start running on the new browser. So it's working on Chrome now. So it's going to yahoo.com on Chrome. My net speed looks a little slow because there's a lot of wind blowing over here. Okay, right. Now it's quite windy today. I don't know. Maybe that's why. Anybody with any questions? Anyone with any questions? I think we should stop today. I'll continue tomorrow. Is it fine? Is it fine? Because